Namaste dosto. Imagine you're trying to understand the scores of your entire class in a math test. Sounds tricky, right? But thanks to statistics, this becomes manageable. So, what exactly is statistics? Simply put, it's a branch of mathematics focused on collecting, organizing, analyzing, and interpreting numerical data to help us make smart decisions. Think of statistics as your detective toolkit in the world of numbers. It helps simplify complex data with tools like the mean, median, mode, and standard deviation, plus useful graphs to spot trends quickly. These tools describe the typical values and spread of data, helping us predict and make decisions even when there's uncertainty. From economists studying markets to biologists observing species or psychologists analyzing behaviors, statistics plays a vital role in identifying patterns and testing ideas. If you look at the bar chart here, imagine class intervals showing score ranges and frequencies as the number of students scoring in each range. It's a visual summary that statistics helps create, making data easier to understand at a glance. So, as we start this journey, remember, statistics is everywhere, waiting to turn mountains of data into meaningful stories. Shabash for taking the first step. Now, let's dive into the types of data, which is like sorting your clothes before washing. Data is broadly of two kinds: qualitative, also called categorical, and quantitative, which we call numerical. Each type calls for its special ways of analysis. First, quantitative data is about numbers you can measure or count. It splits into discrete data, like the number of students in a class, countable and exact, and continuous data, such as temperatures or heights, where values flow smoothly within a range. Qualitative data, on the other hand, deals with categories. For example, nominal data includes labels like gender or favorite color, where there's no ranking. Then there's ordinal data, which brings in order or rank, like class positions or customer ratings. You know who's first, second, and so on. But differences between ranks aren't exact numbers. Why does this matter? Because choosing the right method depends on knowing your data well. Mixing up types can lead to wrong conclusions. Imagine a Venn diagram here, showing these categories with examples. It helps visualize how data fits into each type clearly. Excellent. Now you're ready to classify and conquer your data universe. Let's explore a big idea: population versus sample. Imagine you want to know the average height of all students in your school. The population is everyone in that group, the complete set sharing a trait like being studied. But measuring every single person can be tough. So instead, we pick a sample, a smaller, manageable group from the population. This sample should represent the whole fairly well, like tasting a spoonful to check a dish's flavor. Sampling techniques like random sampling or stratified sampling help ensure fairness and reduce bias. When we analyze the sample, the statistics we calculate act like clues to estimate unknown characteristics of the entire population called parameters. Picture a rectangle representing the population, with circles inside showing various samples. This visual helps you see how the smaller groups fit within the larger one. Remember, the power of statistics lies in these smart samples. They save time and effort but still give us trustworthy insights. Areva, you're getting the hang of this. Next up, how do we get data? There are two main ways: primary and secondary data. Primary data is fresh and original, collected first-hand by you or an investigator through surveys, experiments, or observations specially designed to answer your study question. Secondary data, by contrast, is data someone else already collected and published, like statistics from websites, books, or reports. While primary data is often more accurate and tailored to your needs, it takes more time and cost. Secondary data saves both time and money but may not perfectly fit your purpose and could carry some bias from how it was collected. Imagine a simple comparison table here listing out these pros and cons side by side, a handy guide to decide which data source suits your project best. So, Choosing between primary and secondary data is like choosing between cooking fresh food or reheating leftovers. Both can work well, depending on your recipe. Now, a key split in statistics: descriptive versus inferential. Think of descriptive statistics as the storyteller. It organizes data into graphs, averages like mean, median, and mode, and measures a spread like range or variance. This helps us understand what's going on in the data itself. Inferential statistics takes a bolder step. It uses data from a sample to make guesses or conclusions about the larger population. It involves estimation and testing hypotheses, going beyond the immediate data. To see how they connect, consider the sample mean, symbolized by x bar, which we get by adding all sample values and dividing by the sample size. Formally, it's x bar equals 1 divided by n times the sum of x sub I from 1 to n. Saying this slowly, x bar equals 1 over n times the sum of x sub I, where I runs from 1 to n. This average helps estimate the population mean, often represented by the Greek letter mu. Keep it up. You are connecting the dots beautifully. Before we move on, let's clarify variables and data points, the building blocks of our datasets. A variable is any characteristic that can vary from person to person, like height, income, or scores on your last test. Each specific value a variable takes for an individual is called a data point. So, if height is a variable, your height, say 175 centimeters, is a data point. Variables can be dependent or independent when analyzing relationships, like how studied, independent, affect your exam score, dependent. Data is often arranged in tables where rows represent individual data points and columns represent different variables, creating a matrix that organizes everything clearly. Imagine a table layout showing data points for multiple variables side by side. This helps us keep track of all information neatly. Understanding these terms makes it easier to analyze and interpret the data effectively. Shabash, you're mastering the basics. Let's wrap up what we've learned in this introduction to statistics with some key formulas and ideas. First, the sample mean, written as x bar, is found by adding all values x sub I and dividing by n, the number of data points. We say x bar equals 1 over n times the sum of x sub I, where I goes from 1 to n. This mean tells us the central value of our data. Next is sample variance, noted as s squared, which tells us about the spread or dispersion around that mean. The formula is s squared equals 1 over n times the sum of the quantity x sub I minus x bar squared, repeated I from 1 to n. In words, s squared equals 1 over n times the sum of the square of x sub I minus x bar, dot. We also use relative frequency, P of E, found by dividing the frequency f of an event by the total number n. So, P of E equals f over n. This helps measure how often something occurs, an essential concept in empirical statistics. To sum up, statistics helps organize and analyze data so we can gain meaningful insights. Knowing types of data guides the correct tools. Distinguishing population and sample is key for making inferences, and descriptive and inferential statistics work hand in hand to deepen understanding. Fantastic! Beta. Keep practicing, and you'll ace your statistics journey.